Hi guys! So today I'm going to be making a spicy pineapple chicken dish. So I've already got half of a red onion on my cutting board that I've peeled off the skin and first layer of the actual onion, and I've cut off the top and bottom of it, so it should look about like this. And it's a red onion. And just cut that widthwise into slices like this, and they're about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch thick. And be very careful when you're cutting the very end of it because you're quite close to your fingers and you definitely don't want to cut your fingers. So now you're gonna cut it like height up and down the same way. Cut it 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch thick so that it's diced. It's all getting in my way. And again, be careful when you get to the end so you're not cutting your fingers. I'm doing a YouTube video. I don't know why.
Oh, that's great, honey. Sorry. I didn't
It's okay.
interrupt.
No, it's okay. Oh. Onion fumes. Okay. And take a large bowl and put your onion in there. Okay, you can just put that aside for now. Oh, the onion fumes, God. Gets me every time. Okay, now I have 2 fairly large jalapeno peppers that I'm going to chop up. Oh, God. Onion fumes are really strong. If I start to cry, it's because of the onions. Okay, so cut the tops off of both peppers. And then just slice them in half, right down the middle, lengthwise. Do that to both. And then put your chef's knife aside and just take a small paring knife and cut out the seeds. Now, if you like a lot of spice, you can leave the seeds in, but I'm cooking this for dinner for my family, and my sister and I don't like a lot of spice, so I'm going to cut them out. Get them all out here, just put them in the compost. Okay, so once you've done that to all your peppers, you can cut them once again in half, and then just chop them up into small bits. I'm just gonna finish seeding my peppers here. And while I'm doing this, I have my chicken, 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts, cut up into about 1-inch cubes. And I've got them in a large bowl marinating in pineapple juice, about 1/2 cup of pineapple juice, 2 tablespoons of hot sauce, a tablespoon of ginger, and 2 cloves of garlic. And you're going to want to let your chicken marinate for 1/2 hour, 45 minutes. I've already had mine going for about 15. But if you want, you can marinate it for a few hours, overnight. Just depends like how much pineapple and spice flavor you want in the meat itself. I'm almost done seeding the peppers. And there we go. Okay, so like I said, once they've been seeded, cut them in half once more. And you can use the paring knife or a larger knife and just slice them into small pieces. And I'll show you guys. Almost dropped my phone. And it should be about like this. Just some little tiny pieces, little slices. I don't even know if you guys could see that. I'm sorry. First YouTube video, so camera is just my phone. You're gonna do that to all your peppers. Oh, pepper juice my eye. God. Alright, I'm gonna switch to the bigger knife. It'll go a little bit faster. And I'm going to keep reminding you guys throughout this whole video, be careful not to cut your fingers. Because if you're using a sharp enough knife, it will cut your finger clean off. Like, I'm using Henkel's knives, and they're very sharp, but very good. So I'm always super careful. Alright, now that the jalapenos are chopped, you're just going to throw them in the bowl with the onion. Lost a little piece there. Okay. Set that aside once more. Here I have fresh cilantro. Just take a little bit of it. You only need half a cup maybe. Good knife I use. And just with your hands, peel off the leaves because you don't want the stems. And you want the cilantro fairly fine. Doesn't have to be extremely finely chopped like you get in the containers at the store. Just has to be quick chop. Here on the counter in another bowl, I've also got pineapple chunks. I bought a whole pineapple, cored it and chopped it, and just put it in a bowl with the juices and let it sit with some salt and pepper overnight, which of course you don't have to do. And you don't have to use a fresh pineapple. You could just, of course, buy the canned pineapple chunks from the store and drain the juice to use in the marinade for the chicken. But I find that if you use fresh, it gives it a much deeper flavor and it tastes so much better because everything's better fresh than from a can. For cilantro, it can have quite a bit of dirt on it as well, so make sure you really wash it very well. I haven't washed mine yet. I find it's easier if you take the leaves off and then wash it, because then it really helps it get all the dirt off, because you don't have all the stems in the way, and it's a lot easier to wash. Alright, that should be enough. Just put the rest of that aside. Put it in the fridge after. I have this little silicone kind of basket that's got holes in the bottom to let water through. And it's made for fruit, but you can use it for all kinds of things like vegetables and herbs. I'm just gonna give this a good wash. There we go. Back to the cutting board. And you also don't have to use fresh cilantro. You could use the dried stuff and let it sit in a bowl with some olive oil to rehydrate it. There we go. Nice and finely chopped. Okay. Now you're just gonna, missed a few spots. Just gonna put that in the bowl as well with the onions and jalapenos. Okay. Now since you've been dealing with hot peppers, you're gonna want to wash your hands. So wash with warm water, and if you have a stainless steel sink like I do, just rub your hands on the side and it draws out all the oils that have soaked into your skin from the peppers and the onions as well. And that just makes it easier when you're done cooking. You don't have hot pepper oil on your hands and you go to scratch your eye or something and it burns. And that trick I find works with onions, peppers, garlic. Anyway, here I've got about a cup of pineapple. Move that cutting board out of the way. Okay, such tiny counter space. Okay. So you got your bowl with the onion, cilantro, and jalapenos. You're gonna put the pineapple, it's not droppable. You're gonna put the pineapple in with that. Just put that in the sink with a little bit of water. Okay. You're just gonna mix that all up. And if you've got chunks of onion like this, just break them up. Get everything all evenly spread out because you're gonna cook this in a pan later. Okay. Now you're gonna add a little salt and pepper. There we go. And you can really add any seasoning you want to this, whether you want to add paprika or garlic powder or a little bit of cayenne pepper if you really like spice. I know I don't, but my friend Maya adores spice. So when I'm making anything spicy, I make it super spicy for her. Alright, there we go. You can put that aside again. Now in another bowl, you're gonna wanna mix Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, olive oil, and some hot sauce. Now just grab the Worcestershire. Okay. You don't want a lot of it. Just about half a tablespoon of both the soy sauce and Worcestershire. because they're very strong flavors. And just maybe about a teaspoon, not even, of the hot sauce. I'm using Frank Red Hot sauce, but you can really use any hot sauce you want. Just put these away. Into this, you're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Some salt and pepper. And a clove of garlic. So, knocked over my phone. Sorry about that. Grab the cutting board again. And if you find it hard to peel the garlic, what I do is I take the knife and crush it with the blade. And it makes it so much easier to peel. Comes right off. So you're just gonna cut the top and bottom off of that. Put them in the compost. Cut your clove in half. And then just chop. You want it a fairly fine dice, but if you personally like chunks of garlic, then don't worry about a fine dice. I'm only dicing it finely because my sister hates chunks of garlic. She hates pretty much everything, but she's very hard to please. Okay, so add in the garlic in there. Cutting board aside once again. You can just take the same spoon you used for the peppers and onion and just mix that together. You probably could use a smaller bowl than this. Okay. And pour that over your peppers, onions, and pineapple. Alright, and mix that up so that you evenly coat all of it. Alright, get that out of the way. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of olive oil in a pan on the stove. And you're going to heat it to about medium-high heat. And just let that heat up there for a little bit. In the meantime, set that aside. And get your chicken that I've marinated with pineapple juice, hot sauce, ginger, and garlic. And the ginger is very finely grated, whereas the garlic is just in little slices like that. Okay, now you're gonna just put salt and pepper. When you're making something savory, you want to put salt and pepper in everything. I don't put much pepper because my sister tends to turn her nose up at it. And so far I've only got a tablespoon of hot sauce in here, which my sister and I aren't huge spice lovers, so I'm going to leave it at that. But you could definitely put more. I've got 2 cloves of garlic, you could put a little bit less. Tablespoon of ginger, you could put more or less. Really, this is something that you can play around with the quantities. You could make a little bit more chicken if you've got a bigger group. I've only done 4 breasts because we're 4 people, so about a breast a person. And there we go. Put that aside, and we've got all this fresh cilantro. You could put more of that in with the chicken if you wanted. Here, I'll grab a rubber spatula. Just scrape the sides. Now, I'm just gonna move my phone over here so you can see what I'm doing on the stove. And I'm actually gonna turn the stove up to high heat because it hasn't been going for very long. So I wanna get that nice and hot. And pour your peppers, pineapple, and onions into the pan. Make sure you get all the sauce in there. All right, there we go. Put the bowl out of our way. Whoops. Losing pieces here. And this is the time where if you didn't get it when you were mixing, you can break up all those pieces of onion. I don't know why, but it always bothers me if there's pieces of onion stuck together, but I've been cooking for a very long time. Even the slightest little thing done wrong bothers me. And you want to cook this just until it's fragrant. It's going to take a couple minutes. You want to be constantly stirring it because you don't want it to burn. And now to this, I'm going to add thyme and sage, as well as just a little bit of chili powder. Okay. Just about a teaspoon of thyme and sage. And very little chili powder, maybe about half a teaspoon. Throw those back in the spice drawer. Starting to smell really good. Make sure it's centered on the burner, because that's often my problem, is I get kind of off-centered on the burner. Okay, now I'm going to turn this down to about 4 or medium heat. And I'm going to get my chicken. I'm just going to put it all in. The marinade and everything. All the garlic, all the ginger. It's going to be delicious. Just stir it up so that all the chicken is on the bottom for the most part. Alright, turn that down just a little bit more to medium-low heat. And I've got another piece of ginger here that I'm just going to peel. Probably not going to use all of this piece because it's a good 3-4 inches long. And that's quite a lot of ginger. There's already a good bit in there. You're going to want to cut the end off because it is a real pain to peel because it's all bumpy. just put that in the compost. No shame in putting anything in the compost, it biodegrades. Okay. Now you're going to take a microplaner, or what most people call a zester. Just rotate my camera again. You're going to go back over to the pan, and you're just going to grate that in there. You just want about another tablespoon to 2 tablespoons in there. And be very careful not to cut yourself when you're doing this, because it is quite sharp, even though it's just tiny, like a tiny little cheese grater basically. See how much we've got there. That should be enough. Oop, almost cut myself. Okay, and just tap that on the edge of the pan because it tends to stick underneath. You can just scrape it with your finger even, or with the rubber spatula. Where did I leave the spatula? There it is. Just scrape it with the spatula into the pan. Scrape the top too, because it tends to do this and just collect in one spot. There we go. And stir that up. Make sure it's all mixed in. Oh, spill a little bit. Just wipe that up. Okay, now you can turn the heat back up to medium-high heat, or somewhere around there, just to finish up cooking the chicken. I'm actually going to add a little bit of chicken stock in here. Give it a little bit of a richer flavor. And this is bouillon, not stock. And if you mix it, about a tablespoon of that with a 1/4 cup of water. I added about 1/4 cup of that, so mix it with a full cup of water to dilute it if you would like. I like to mix in the bouillon before I add in the water. Okay, now full cup of water. Add a little bit of lime juice, just about a tablespoon. And of course you can use a fresh lime and throw in the zest too. And you're just gonna let this simmer on medium-high heat until the chicken's cooked. It'll take 15 minutes to half an hour. And of course I'm not gonna make a video that long because it's already like half an hour. But once it's cooked, you can top it with rice or some naan bread. And I hope you all enjoy.